Today we're going to be talking about CRM for business development. Before we get started, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Courtney Kearney, founder and owner of C. Kearney Consulting. So excited to spend the next 30 minutes with you talking about client relationship management, specifically for business development and those that are in charge of business development, either if that is your full-time job or if you're a seller-doer or a doer-seller, whichever way your priorities land. A little bit of housekeeping. I wanted to let you know that our website is full of resources to you. If you head out to our events tab on the ckearneyconsulting.com website, we've got events coming up. Some are free, some have a fee involved. We do have a free users group on the second Thursday of the month. We do have all of our past webinars available on demand recording as well. You can check those out. We also have other articles, some written by us, some written by guest post that you can check out on the CKC Stories tab. We have our next free webinar next month will be June 8th, and it is how to audit your CRM. So if you do have a CRM system and it's either been neglected or you just want to take an audit and see where you're at, want to look at where you can improve or some low-hanging fruit of ways that you can make it a little bit more optimized, feel free to put that on your calendar and register. Our paid webinars are on the fourth Tuesday. May 25th is going to be CoCentral specific for business development. And then on June 22nd, it's going to be how to audit specifically for your CoCentral account. One more bit of housekeeping before we jump in. I wanted to drop our URL for our YouTube into the chat window. So if you could take a minute, if you haven't subscribed, that would be very helpful to us if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, without further ado, the next 27 minutes are going to be talking about business development and how to marry that with your CRM system. If you don't have a CRM system and you're figuring out what that looks like for your firm, you still will get some information that is helpful to you, and then you will have a path forward of how to implement that once you do get a system on board. Looking at documentation, that's where a lot of our discussion is going to lie today. Looking at how you document your leads and opportunity process. So do you have that documented? If not, we're going to look at how you can document that. I know sometimes when people hear documentation, that can seem overwhelming and a process where you have to have a binder this thick at the end. It doesn't at all. You can do a napkin sketch, or if you just have a piece of printer paper around you, you can grab that and you can start to sketch it out as we talk through some things today, so that you do have a process that is documented so that everybody on staff can know how information flows through the company and who's responsible for what. A lot of the times when we get hired, we come in and that's the piece that's missing, is that people don't really know what their part in winning work looks like. Especially if there is a full-time business developer on staff, it seems to be a misconception that it's all 100% on them. Really, it's a team effort. So looking at, I might have a piece of information as the marketer, the business developer might have another piece of information, but together we can put everything in our CRM and the information can be tracked as it goes through the process. Having clear definitions. What is the difference between a lead and an opportunity? What's the difference between a prospect and a lead? Is there a difference? Making sure that everybody is using the same vocabulary in the right meaning and in the right way, so that if I'm talking about, hey, I've got this really good lead, that you on the other side understand what that means and that we are on the same page. Creating business development goals and objectives. Here's the key: tracking them in your CRM. So on our next webinar, we're going to be talking about how to use CoCentral specifically to track those. If you're not using CoCentral, it still might be helpful to you to see and get some ideas of how you could use your own CRM system if you're using something else, so that you can see how other people are using a CRM to track those. Use your CRM to also track key performance indicators. Those KPIs are essential to your business development metrics. So tracking those in your CRM. Some examples: if you have divided your clients up by tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, Maybe it's language internally, like your top 80%, 20%, your retainer clients, those that you have on a regular basis, whatever that looks like for your internal structure. Maybe you have a goal or a key performance indicator that your business developers or your seller doers, that it's a priority for those people, those clients to get touched quarterly. Then you want to make sure that you're tracking that in your CRM system. So come annual review time, you can run reports and know that those KPIs are being met. Or if they're not, how can we maybe shift some resources around so that those people can go ahead and have the time and allocated resources to make that happen. Win rate, using dashboards and widgets to know that your win rate is staying at a percentage that will keep the successful business in place. So if that's 45% for your firm, 50%, what does that win rate look like for your firm? And what is the goal that you want to keep it at, meet or exceed that? These are just some examples. If you guys have other examples that you guys are using for KPIs, feel free to drop them in the chat window. I'm happy to always share those. These are just some that I wanted to share. We're going to talk for the next 15 minutes about documentation and why that's such a big deal. We're going to look at our internal documentation for our business development process. In fact, it's our entire CX plan, so our client experience mapping. We're going to focus on the first 4 to 5 steps today. On the screen, looking at potential future CKC clients. Those are the people that are out in the world that are AEC specific. They're owners, leaders, business developers, marketers. They are out in the world and they have no idea who CKC is or what we do. Once they have found us or have learned about CKC, that is when we call them a prospect. Before that, we're not aware of them. They're not aware of us. So they aren't a prospect to us. Once they are actually aware of us and engaging somehow, whether that is following us, learning from us, engaging somehow, that is a prospect to us. A lead is someone that we're in communication with. So they've shown interest, they have a real need, they're ready for help. That is a lead. So when I come to my business developer and I say, hey, Valerie, we have a prospect. Here are some business cards of, I just attended SMPS SERC. These are the people who attended my session. Those to us are prospects because we don't know anything about them. We don't know if there's a need, but they have heard from me. They sat in a presentation of mine, therefore they are a prospect. The lead is when we've actually put quantifiable information around them in our CRM. So we know that either they have or don't have a CRM. We know where in that journey that they're at. We know that there's a need and that they're showing interest. Once they are a lead and they're in our pipeline, then Valerie's whole perspective or whole priority is to get discovery calls. So that is a KPI for her specifically, is how many discovery calls does she book, either quarterly, in a year, whatever our metrics are that we're looking at around that, and how many does she close. Of the leads that we're interacting with, she has a 7-touch process. So bouncing between emails and phone calls, there are 7 total touches before we push them back into the prospect pool. And through those 7 touches, her ultimate goal is to get on the phone and have a discovery call. The discovery call goes something like, tell me about your CRM needs. Where are you in your journey? Do you have leadership buy-in? What system do you have? Is it optimized? How much are you using it? All of those sorts of questions we have mapped out. So there's a whole other process to a discovery call. You guys probably have that similar script, even if it's not documented. You know what you're trying to get the information from your clients. What upcoming projects do you have? What state are they in? Do you have funding? All of those kinds of information that you're trying to suss out of a conversation. Looking at the next piece, we're going to go into do they have a need? Do they meet all of the criteria? If so, we're going to issue them an opportunity. Hopefully, once we issue that opportunity, we will have a debrief with them. Valerie goes through the proposal. If they have any questions, great. If not, hopefully they sign it and they become a new client. You'll see the rest of it is going through the new client process, how we work with them, when do we re-engage for the renewal process, who gets re-engaged. This is the prettied up version for the public. The behind the scenes version, there are responsibilities and activities and to-do lists behind each one of these. So identifying in the potential future CKC clients pool. Oh, why aren't you advancing? There we go. Identifying where are our prospects? Are they in Texo? Are they in AGC? Are they at the AIA meetings? Where are they and who needs to be there? Having those outlined of who's responsible for that piece of it so that we know what are the KPIs again, what are the metrics for this specific part of the process of this piece of the documentation, and then who's responsible. My part in this is I'm responsible for being at those meetings, to forming those relationships, to getting in front of these audiences, whether that's through speaking engagements, just attending events. But it's key for me to know what I need to do once I meet someone, once I get introduced to them. What do I need to do with that contact? Where does it go? How do I let the next person in the next phase of this process know that that relationship has started? The next piece, they have found us. I've either met them, they've met someone else, they've heard about us, they have been to our website. What then happens? What are the next steps for us to figure out that process? That's all the behind the scenes that you guys can then take that step back to your firm and ask specifically, what are those steps? What part do I play as the business developer to going through that piece? It looks like we've got a Q&A. Let me make sure that this window is open. Can we get a copy of this presentation? Absolutely. Yes, we can definitely get you the documentation for this, and it will be in the follow-up email that gets generated from Zoom. If that link isn't working for some reason, just feel free to email me or anybody on the team, and we will get you the slide deck, but it will be included in that follow-up email. Thank you for asking that. And it does look like somebody put one of their specific KPIs in the chat window, so I did want to see that. Certain number of new clients. Absolutely. Thank you, Jody. Yes, tracking those new prospects. I know a lot of us go by the 80-20 rule. We want 80% of our business from renewed clients or return clients, and then 20% from new. So you want to make sure that those numbers are in alignment if that is one of your goals. So the prospects, once they're in our CRM system, a couple things happen for us. Once they get entered into the CRM, we have an API integration that takes their information over to MailChimp, because that which has been typed should never be typed again. Once it is in MailChimp, they receive a welcome email from us. So we automatically explain why they're getting this welcome email. And it is chock full of resources. We never just want to email people to be yet another email that they need to delete. Instead, it's full of resources for them. It explains that either you've interacted with someone at the company and they've put your information in the CRM. Yes, we do spell that out very clearly. You are now in our CRM system, or you have asked to subscribe to our email via our website. Those are the two ways that you get into our system. So we explain that to our prospects because we want to let them know how and why they're receiving information from us. Once that happens, they are now on Valerie's radar. She is trying to gauge who is interested, who's attending our webinars like you're doing today, and who has she talked to and who hasn't she talked to as she works through that. And that is all in our CRM system. So she will get reminded of who and when she needs to talk to and what those follow-ups looks like. Every 2 weeks, we have a staff team meeting, and she reports those stats to us. So this week, I've got 2 discovery calls with these 2 clients. What does our workload look like? Do we have the staff? What do I need to be communicating to them if they are interested in moving forward with us? So that is a team effort for all of our project managers to know what's coming. For me as the owner to know what is our workload capacity, should I be hiring? For her as the business developer to stay connected with what are our project managers seeing so that she can communicate that to our prospects as well. So you as a business developer, if there are things going on like skyrocketing cost of timber and some of the other materials that we're seeing right now, that is crucial to take back to your prospects who are considering building sometime soon or designing a building that will be coming. Those are all things that you as a business developer on the front line of sales can indicate to your prospects so that not only are you having conversations with them, but you're also educating them and providing value when you are with them. So Valerie's here to help. She's had that discovery call. Then that is when we determine if it's a good fit now or not. We don't want to issue an opportunity for everybody that we meet. We don't want to issue a proposal for every single conversation that we have. We're very selective with that. So if it's not a fit, that's fine. It could be because they don't have leadership buy-in right now to move forward with the CRM and all of that effort and resources. Then they just go back in that prospect pool. Valerie will follow up in 6 months and see maybe that their journey has gone somewhere different. I know one person on this call specifically, it was a 3-year engagement that they sat in the prospect pool of us having conversations, and over those course of times, things changed, and then they finally had the resources to devote to that process. And it is a lengthy process. We want you to be successful. We don't want you to just get into an agreement with us so that we can have a client. We want you to do it at the right time so that you can be successful. Once we've determined that it is that right time, we'll pursue or we'll issue the proposal. The goal is obviously for them to sign it and become a client. But if they don't, they go back to that prospect pool. This is our documentation. Again, it does not have to be pretty drawn out by a very awesome SNPS member, fellow CPSM, who designed all of this. This started out, I wish I could turn my camera quickly. It started out as a giant Post-it note in our staff meeting where we just scribbled it. And it was, okay, who does what? During this conversation, it became clear to us that Valerie was using different language than the rest of us were. So when we were saying things like, oh, we have a lead for you, she immediately was like, oh, you've qualified them? You've had a conversation? And then I'd be like, what are you talking about? No, I just got a business card. Okay, well, that's different language. So now that we've honed in on that, it's a much smoother process so that we know what a prospect means, what a lead means, and what an opportunity is. Those are 3 distinct differences for us. But we were all using those words interchangeably before we had this process documented. So I definitely think it is worth the time to go through that process and have these conversations internally. As you document, you should also think about the workflow. That's the behind the scenes of that process mapping that we just looked at. So things like, how are you getting your contacts and pursuits into your CRM or into an Excel if you don't have a CRM? Are you using an Outlook integration? What are the expectations if you're using that Outlook integration? When you create a contact or you create a pursuit, what is the information that's needed at that point? Excuse me. Allergies and drainage, no fun. Will you be using another tool to manage your pursuits, or will you be doing that on a web-based CRM? Having everybody on the same platform, maybe I want to do it in Outlook and maybe another business developer wants to do it in the web-based platform. Totally great. As long as you're all managing it in the same way. You want to make sure that everybody understands the stages on the opportunities and what those mean. We just worked through that process with another client where they had 7 stages. Now they're down to 5 because they realized 2 of them just weren't being used. And if they were, it really wasn't aligning with how it was intended. So don't be scared to assess those things and make tweaks if needed. Using your CRM live in business development meetings. This one is critical and I wish more people would do it. So if you have CoCentral specifically, pulling up that opportunity grid, if you have something like Deltec Vantage Point, pulling up those reports so that you can see them, or the dashboards live in a meeting is critical so that everybody knows this information is in the CRM, or if someone says, oh my gosh, this proposal just went in and it's not on this list. Okay, well, you haven't put it in the CRM, so let's do that. I don't agree with making live changes. So I would not want the meeting to become a data entry session. That should be the expectation of before the meeting, everything is entered. But if there's small tweaks, like actually that start date has pushed out 60 days, sure, make that quickly. Or that stage should be changed and now it's in pre-construction. Okay, great. But as far as entering the conversations that you had or some more of those details, that should be done at a later time. Using your CRM app, if you do have a mobile app, whether that's on Android or iOS, knowing what it does and how it functions and if your team is going to use it. The reason I put this on here for some of the documentation workflow is because when you move to the app, there might be things that are missed. So for example, when I scan a card on my app, it doesn't capture things like region. And region is really important for us because pre-pandemic, as I went to other places to speak, we would use that region field in our CRM to notify anybody in the area that they could either attend that session or bring me into their office to do personalized training. If that region was not populated, then that part of our process would fail. So what we learned is that if I scan a card, that region field does not populate automatically. So we put in some workflows to populate that after the fact so that my workflow didn't necessarily have to change and I could still scan the card and use the app, but it allowed me to know where those gaps were. Looking at creating task and activity logs, what deems a major client prospect update that should be recorded? Should every conversation be recorded? Knowing that so that everybody's on the same page and I don't get in and see that John is definitely putting in all of his information and Paul might not. Well, Paul might just think, well, it didn't deem necessary. I didn't consider that a major update. Those are two very different use cases. It's not that neither one of them is using the system. It's just that we weren't on the same page about how to use the system. This is a big one. Excel should be no more. Excel has a place. It has a dear place in my heart, but it should not be used to capture anything and everything. And instead of using Excel, having a commitment in your workflow to first using the dashboards built in and the reports. Now you can pull things out in Excel, of course, make your tables, your pivot charts, or your graphs, but really focusing on let's make a commitment to look at our dashboards and rely on those first instead of first going to Excel. Do you have a go, no-go process? How does that fit into your CRM and BD workflow? I'm not a big fan of every single out-of-the-box feature of a CRM, so I have no problem if you already have a go, no-go process that's external to a CRM. What I do encourage you to do is take that document, even if it's a Word document, PDF it, keep it in Word, what have you, and then make sure that it gets uploaded to your CRM so that that history is there, so that you can have an understanding of, okay, we made these go, no-go decisions, and that's why we didn't go after it. These two things have changed, therefore it is a go now. That documentation can all live in your CRM. Some CRMs do have an electronic form built into their process. Sure, use it if that works for you. If not, figure out a way that works with the workflow, but have everybody on the same page, knowing what that process looks like. And the last piece, do you have a client capture or client pursuit plan that outlines the strategy for those specific clients? Again, it could be your tier 1 clients, your top 10% that provide the top 10% of the profit of the firm. Whatever that looks like, do you have a way to either capture that in the CRM? Again, you can simply upload it. Or do you have a field that says, yes, no, we have a client capture plan? Now, client capture plans can be crazy detailed, or can be as simple as, what is our strategy? How often are we going to meet with them? Who are the key players? Some people do we have a ladder strategy? Do other people outside of in our business line up with the people in their business to have a good connection from the top down of the company hierarchy. So that if one person walks out the door, that entire client doesn't follow, you have several connections at that firm. That is the key to CRM for business development. Documentation, documentation, documentation. I will provide these slides. Before we wrap up, I do have some poll questions for us. So our poll questions today are a two-parter. So the first one is, is your business development process documented? Yes or no? If no, will you take the time to document it now after today's webinar? If yes, did you learn ways to improve what you already have documented? We'll leave that running for a few seconds. And if you have specific questions for me about CRM for business development, drop them in the Q&A window or the chat window, and I'm happy to answer those questions for us. Looks like we're about half participated so far in the poll, so I'll let that go for about another 15 seconds. I'm so glad to see so many have already documented their process in some capacity. That's really good. We're about 70% participation, so we'll go for about 5 more seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll and we're going to launch the results. I'm going to move this over to my other screen. Excellent. 79% have your business development process documented. Of the 21% who did not, 21% said that they will now document it. That is fantastic news. And then all 79% who did have it documented did learn ways to improve their documentation. That is fantastic. Thank you so much for participating in that poll. All right, it looks like we've got some questions. Our next webinar, oh, let me end this over here. Our next webinar is Tuesday, the 25th, CoCentral for BD. And let's get to those questions. How does someone in my firm get on your list for webinars? Oh, great question. You can have them go out to the CKC website and sign up for them specifically. At the very bottom, we also have a little email icon. I don't know if you guys are seeing my screen. We have an email icon and you can sign up for our emails and you'll be sure to get those as well. I will drop these in case you're not seeing. Oh, I lost my mouse. Uh-oh, it might not have liked that I just did that. Okay, we'll go back to PowerPoint here for a second. I'm going to drag this over to my other screen and see if I can grab my mouse. Yes, I can. Okay, I'm going to drop this into the chat window so that you guys can have that and have that quick access for sure. You can also email me and I'll make sure that whoever that new person is can get added for sure. Other questions? I think we have 1 more minute left. I'm going to make sure that we get to everybody if you do have questions. Fantastic. Well, if you have anything that you would like to share with the group that maybe is a great tip or trick that you have that you think that other people can gain access for, or gain from using, let me know and I'm happy to share it with the group too. On the 25th, we're going to look at CoCentral specifically and going through how to implement some of these things that we talked about today, whether that's KPIs, specific dashboards for business development, looking at how to track your goals in CoCentral and some ways to do that, and maybe some value list and reporting that can help with business development. It looks like we are at time. Thank you so much for spending the last 30 minutes with me, and I look forward to the next time. Thank you.